Hey guys, it's Bear. It is Friday, September 28th, 2018, and I wanted to address a question that gets asked in support groups a lot. And that's the question of what's going to happen at my doctor's appointment. So there's a couple different, variations on this. There's therapy appointments, there's HRT, and then there's surgical consults. Basically, all three are going to go in a very similar fashion. They're just going to have a conversation with you. So let's talk about HRT first, right? They're going to ask you why you're there. You're there to get on HRT, hormone replacement therapy. I approach all these videos from the point of view of a trans man, so we're just going to say testosterone. They're going to ask you why you want to be on testosterone. Well, that answer is definitely different for everybody. I just said, I feel like I should have been born male, and I want to get on testosterone because I want to make my outward appearance that of a male, and I want, some of the internal effects as well. Like I want my cycle to stop. I want my voice to deepen. I want the muscle, and that's pretty much it. That's pretty much what I said. Obviously, that's going to be different for everybody, but I would say the only thing you have to be prepared for is to answer that question: why do you want testosterone? And I think that answer is different for everybody, and I know that some guys are conflicted about some of the effects. Like, some guys don't want a lot of body hair. Well, you have to be ready to accept the fact that you are going to have an increase in body hair, and things like that. So that would be the only thing I would urge you to kind of soul search about before you go in, because you don't want to be stumped by that question and feel like on the spot, and then you kind of panic and shut down. They're going to go over the list of effects with you. They're going to go over the timeline, and in some cases they're going to talk about, are you ready to deal with the social and family repercussions of making this choice? That was brought up with me both times. I went in for 2 consultations. The first time the doctor was really awful, and I just left. I didn't follow up on it. I went back like 4 months later for my second consultation, when I was like, okay, I do want this, and I just want a different doctor to help me with it. They did both go over that. They were like, are you ready for the fact that you are possibly going to have people reject you, and that your family may have problems with this and stuff like that? That was basically it. If they don't go over that timeline of things and the effects with you, do your research. They really should. If you have a good doctor that's familiar with trans people, they really should have that timeline accessible, and they should go over that. This has to be something that you make an informed decision about. If you don't know what the effects of testosterone are and how long they're going to take effect, then you're not ready to make that decision, quite frankly. And that's something else I see a lot, is people that are like, oh, I've been on T for 2 weeks. When is my voice going to start dropping? Well, you needed to do better research. I'm sorry. I'm sorry to be blunt about it, but you really should know that before you make this kind of decision. That's how your HRT appointment's going to go. Different places differ. So I went to an informed consent clinic. At the time when I went, which was almost 4 years ago, they had a 3-appointment regimen. And so you went to the first one and had a consultation. You went back for a consultation with more of a mental health professional, where you went through the list and you agreed. Again, informed consent. You agreed to each one. You literally initialed next to each thing. Yes, I want this. Yes, I understand this is going to happen to me. And then I had a 3rd appointment, again with the same doctor, where we discussed a dose and administration and stuff like that, which I'm not going to get into in this video. I know other places do it a lot quicker now. I know the clinic I go to does it a lot quicker now. I think it's just 1 appointment. Whatever. It's going to be different for everybody. Some places do require a letter from a therapist Informed consent means that you don't need that. So let's talk about therapy. Therapy is a really good idea. All right, whether you need it or not, this person is going to help you with your own headspace around transitioning, the stuff you're dealing with socially. When somebody gets in your face about this stuff, it can be really difficult. When people misgender you, it can be difficult. So it's a really good idea to be able to go in and talk to somebody about all of those feelings. But in a lot of cases, a therapist who is versed in trans stuff can also help to guide you through your name change and your surgical consult and stuff like that. So I would definitely suggest seeing somebody through this process. It's going to be very similar. You're going to go in and they're going to ask you, why are you here? Talk about your gender dysphoria. You think about the fact that you might be transgender. You're thinking about transitioning, whether that means hormones for you, etc. They're just going to sit there and they're going to guide you through a conversation. It shouldn't be gatekeepy. They shouldn't be telling you, okay, well, I want you to see me for so long before da-da-da. Again, this differs. They might ask you to see them for a certain period of time before they give you a letter to go get on hormones. But they shouldn't be saying you need to fill certain requirements to get on said hormones. The trans spectrum is huge. So if you don't want to be 100% binary on the opposite end of the spectrum from where you were born, they shouldn't be saying that they don't advocate you getting hormones. If they're saying that to you, that's not a very good therapist. They're not very supportive, and it's probably time to talk to somebody new. As far as your surgical consult, that's going to be pretty similar to both. It's going to be a conversation. What kind of surgery are you looking at, and why? Again, so I've had top surgery, and I went into mine and said, I feel like a man. I'm transitioning to male. I had been on hormones. At that time, my consult was in February of 2015. I started T in November of 2014, so it had been only a couple of months that I had been on T. But I said, I want to transition to male. I'm already working towards that. I've been on testosterone for this long, and having a masculine chest is really important to me in order to achieve that goal. Plus, obviously my breasts were causing me pretty bad dysphoria. Binding isn't comfortable, but then when you take your binder off at night, you have to deal with your body the way it is, and it's just uncomfortable. It makes a lot of trans guys really unhappy to see those parts. And that was pretty much it. My surgeon required a letter from the doctor who was prescribing me testosterone, and he did require a letter from a mental health advocate. So I went and saw somebody at that time to get a letter of stability. It's not somebody that I was seeing regularly because I didn't go that route, but because I didn't need it, because I went to an informed consent clinic, I didn't need a therapist. But I did go to somebody and say, this surgeon requires a letter from a therapist. And again, we talked about why I wanted the surgery, why it was going to improve my life, how I felt like it was necessary, and they determined at that time that I was making an informed decision and that I was mentally and emotionally stable enough to do that. Surgeons require that for trans surgeries and not for other plastic surgeries, which I have all sorts of opinions about. But basically they want to guarantee that you're not going to come back and say that you made some kind of mistake and basically sue them. That's what I got from my surgeon. He was like, yeah, I need you to go get a letter from somebody saying that you're stable enough to make this decision, basically, and that you're not going to turn around and say, I want my body parts back. That's basically it. Don't be overly nervous about these appointments. It's really normal to be nervous around making huge changes. Obviously, you're going to experience some anxiety before that appointment, but really, they're not in the business of telling people no, you can't do things. They're in the business of making sure that you know what you're getting into. So if you have somebody who says that you're not ready for this, think about, are you ready for it? There's two options there. One, it could be a really crappy doctor who isn't well versed in trans stuff, or maybe they have their own personal opinions that are getting in the way of their practice, which is kind of borderline lawsuit, depending on what they say to you. Like if somebody says, I don't believe in transgender people and I'm not going to supply you hormones, well, that's a lawsuit. All right, they really can't and shouldn't be doing that to people. They are, but they're in the business of making sure that you're making a good decision for yourself, and determining whether or not you should be allowed to go on hormones, or whether or not they are going to do your surgery. They're not in the business of turning you down. In the end, you pay their bills. So that's about it. Obviously, yeah, you're going to be nervous. That's fine. I'm not telling you not to be nervous. I'm just trying to prepare you for how that's going to go. It's really not that bad. So if you're ready for it and you've done your research, you should be able to walk into that appointment, and if not get your prescription that day, you should be set up with a date that you're going to go back and get your prescription, or go back and have your next appointment. Good luck, and I'll see you next time.